This week on the Erotic Awakening Podcast, episode 748, Memory Play and Agency in Hypnosis with Hypnostory and Panda and BDSM terminology. Welcome to Erotic Awakening, an exploration of all things erotic. If you are offended by adult topics or prohibited by law, it's recommended you stop listening right now. First, a heartfelt thanks to the amazing patrons of Erotic Awakening and all the work that I do. Each and every one of you, I appreciate all of you. Your support keeps this podcast going and the education happening. A special welcome to our newest supporter, Lizzie. I'm so glad you're here, and thanks for your support. If Erotic Awakening or my work has supported you, inspired you, or helped you feel seen, I invite you to join in supporting this work so it can continue. Just visit patreon.com/Erotic Awakening. Every contribution helps. So hi, everyone. I'm Dawn. I'm here this week to continue the conversations on power exchange, polyamory, sacred sexuality, and everything in between. I am currently at the Indie Rope Expo. I'm all set up to vend. It starts in 40 minutes, and I'm so excited. There's going to be some amazing people here, and some people I know, and I'm already meeting new friends, and it's going to be so much fun. So the main topic of this week's podcast, well, it was supposed to be memory play with Hypnostory and Panda, but we went off on a tangent, like we do sometimes. And we did talk some about memory play, but we also talked about agency in hypnosis. I think it was a fantastic conversation. Let's give it a listen.
I am sitting here today with good friends, Hypnostory and Panda, and previous podcast interviewees. So again, Hypnostory and Panda.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm doing a lot more with hypnosis myself.
Mhm.
I just got to teach for a vanilla HypnoCon. So
Cool.
Hypnoticon, I just taught for them. It was an online event, and I taught energy hygiene. So I had like 25 people on my class, and yes, that was kind of cool.
Oh, hell
So now I need to remember to do the Hypno Kink cons because I really want to lean into the kink.
yeah.
So today we are going to talk about memory play
Yeah.
using Hypno Kink.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of curious about that. Tell me a little bit.
So I'll say first that memory play can be a very broad topic. However,
Okay.
when most hypno-kinksters say memory play, what they mean is hypnotic amnesia.
That is true.
But memory play could also include creating false memories or other kinds of manipulation of memory experiences. It can include things like messing with sense of time
Enhancing sensation.
or making memories exceptionally vivid.
Right, like memory recall. Heightened
Yeah.
memory recall.
So for people, even me, old Dawn, when I first learned about Hypno Kink, that was one of my fears, was to have my memory manipulated. So how would you use that as a kink? I mean, you already said heightened sensation, heightened memories, things like that.
And
But if you're doing like amnesia,
consensually manipulating memory can be really, really fun. And I'll tell my favorite story of an example of this, that many years ago, the first time my partner Mara came to visit me at my house, we had played together a bunch. We were both experienced hypno-kinksters, but she had just never been here. And I gave her a suggestion. We went out to dinner, and then in the car before we left to drive back, I gave her the suggestion that when we got back, her brain was going to turn off and it would feel like no time was passing. When the car turned off, it would turn her brain off. And that she would also forget that I told her that until after our scene. So we get back to the house. She drops into this state. I bring her into the house, into the bedroom, to a room that she's never seen. stripped her naked, had her lay down on the bed, spread eagle, and gave her suggestions that her limbs were locked in place and she wouldn't be able to move them, and then brought her out of the state. So in her mind, her experience was turning the car key off, and the next thing she knew, she's naked, spread eagle, on a bed in a room she's never seen before. And that was the start of our scene.
Nice.
Now, will everybody's brain do that? Like with most hypno stuff, it's a skill. My brain hasn't yet as a bottom, which is very frustrating to me because I think it would be really fun to experience, and I haven't figured it out yet. Panda's brain does it really, really well and has picked it up really naturally. There's a huge continuum of how things work for people. And this is one of the ones that can take a bunch of experimentation and a bunch of skill building to sort of figure out how to get your brain to do it, both in a way that's effective for what you want for the scene and that feels safe enough to be within your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because regardless of the fact that she had not been to your house before, obviously she trusted you. So,
Absolutely.
you guys, I'm assuming, talked about you were going to do some hypno play or something like that, but your partners, so she can relax enough, and I'm going to use the word relax, even though that's not always needed. She was
Yeah.
She could
able
let
to take
go.
the suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And she likes surprises and she
Nice.
loves fear play. And actually we have had then and still have a fairly broad blanket negotiation for when we play together.
Mm-hmm.
But even though this was within that, I actually said to her before we start, hey, I'm thinking about starting a scene suddenly and intensely when we get back to the house. Are you up for that? As just a check-in to make sure that she was in the mood that I was sort of feeling like she was in based on our banter at dinner. And she was like, oh, that sounds wonderful. I was like, okay, great.
This should work.
Yeah, yeah.
So Panda Hypnostory was saying that as a bottom, he hasn't been able to experience that sort of hypnosis yet, right?
Yeah.
But your brain falls right into it. What do you think the difference is? Or explain, I don't know.
No, I see what you mean. My brain has pretty much been able to do it from jump, which some people think is unusual. I don't really think it's that unusual. I just think it's that hypnosis is a set of skills. And we all have our own backgrounds coming into it, and that will give us leverage for one skill over another. My sense of emotional and memory recall in terms of like emotions and kinesthetic things is already very strong. So I think that helps. I've also done a literal shit ton of like mindfulness work, some energy stuff, a lot of background in performance because I've done that my entire life, and went to grad school for performance. So I had to learn a bunch of stuff within that I think influenced my skill set. It is interesting to me how different people's brains take it, and perception is different than reality. People think that I'm this like crazy Olympian bottom, but like I still have issues all the time too. Like I don't always succeed at forgetting things. But the thing is, it's like you don't focus on the problem, you focus on how you're going to continue. Okay, if you forget something, then for me, or if you remember the thing you were supposed to forget, then I don't think it's a big deal. Because, okay, you remembered it, you can forget it again. You know how to do that.
Right.
That's one of the keys that I think really helps people who want to be good at hypnotic amnesia as a bottom, is to learn that it can be self-healing. because there's this tendency that you forget it and then you maybe try to remember it because you're sort of poking at this experience of forgetting it,
Right.
and then you do remember it. And that can often feel like, well, I guess that didn't work, when really it did work and then it stopped working.
Right. It's
Right.
really easy, I think, for human brains to just focus on the negative aspect of things. And we know this psychologically, that's a thing that we are really good at. But having more external motivation than internal motivation is also a thing that we know exists in humanity. So I think that's why we have a tendency to go, hypnotist, I remembered the thing. Can you fix me? When, like, yeah, sure, I want my partner to like put the work in because it maintains the lore of relationship and the lore of magic that I want and that they probably want, considering who my dominant
Sure.
partners are. But you can put it back yourself. It's just like not as fun, which is why most people then want to go to their partner and go, hey, can you help me forget again?
But it can be really useful to develop the skill of, oh, I remembered that thing that I was told to forget. I'm going to just decide to forget it again.
Right.
So developing both sides of that, the communication within the scene and the top or dom reinforcing the amnesia as needed, and also the bottom being able to sort of make the amnesia self-healing, that if it starts to crack a little bit, they can just fix it in whatever way sort of fits their brain.
Well, you've mentioned, or you've touched on two different things that I wanted to point out. And one is that hypnosis, at least the way I've done it, seen it, talked about it, is teamwork,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
So it's teamwork. So if you have, as a bottom, if you have forgotten something, you did that as a team. Someone guided you through the forgetting. You forgot. Teamwork. And then you decided to poke at it to see if you could remember it.
Right.
So, you've made that decision. Whereas you could have just decided to go, it's done. It's gone.
Right.
Don't need to poke at it.
Well, and there are things you can do as a top that can help with that process, right? So let's say I do a trance where I've set up amnesia for a part of it. If I bring the person out of the trance and then immediately engage them in conversation about something completely unrelated to move their mind to a different place, or depending on the kind of scene we're doing, I grab the rope or chain harness I have tied around them and throw them down on the bed as they come out of trance. Those kinds of distractions.
We should do that more often. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's really hot.
It's pretty fun. It mixes that. One of the big things there are people who teach the same kind of hypno stuff that we do, who call it erotic hypnosis, and we pretty adamantly call it hypno kink because we come at it from a kink frame and mix it with a lot of other kinks.
Yeah. Well,
and think that that's really fun and effective.
And it's on my brain extra because I was just writing our social media postings for the class on this we have coming. But one of the posts I wrote on it was that distraction is basically your best friend in this activity in particular. That there have been so many times where I got distracted. For me, it's something kinesthetic. Like that will be different for everybody depending on like how they work and what they enjoy. But for me, just the other day when we were teaching, Daddy had me forget something, and it was easier for me to forget the thing because their finger was making spirals on my forehead or like on my neck or something. And I just kept focusing on how good it felt for that. And like, that's a thing I'm choosing to focus on. So yeah, it is like, we say it pretty much in every class, the hypnosis is 1,000,000% a collaborative process. So like, I'm putting in just as much work, if not more so, than the top is doing.
Absolutely. Bottoming is not passive.
No.
So
Huh.
the times that I've done the bottoming, that's not passive at all. And sometimes my observer that stands behind me that I can feel is very, very active and protecting me. And it doesn't mean that I'm not in trance.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it is definitely work to be a bottom.
No,
Absolutely.
I have a soapbox about like, because people tend to think that if you're not blank, like if your mind's not empty, then like, am I in trance? And I think that's the biggest load of horse shit I've ever heard. And so that's why I try to be really adamant and show it in classes. When we're demoing a thing in a class, I'm honestly a little more likely to speak up in the middle of trance to demonstrate that yes, you can think and you can think, talk, move like of your own accord, like anything that you can do when you're awake, you can do in trance. It just might be a little slower or look a little different.
Feel different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But-
as the bottom, it definitely feels different. I mean, I've done things like shamanic journeys and, guided meditations and stuff like that. And I'll tell people sometimes you'll hear something outside because the world is moving on like it should. Don't let it distract you. Bring your focus back to this. Use that sound as part of your trance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Very, very active as a bottom, and
For sure.
decide to do trance, and trance will happen most of the time.
Well, I mean, it's still a skill. And
Yeah.
particularly for people who haven't experienced it before, that it can sometimes take a little bit of experimenting and sort of regardless of what it is, whether it is trance or it is hypnotic amnesia or other kinds of memory play or whatever, that it can take a little more sometimes to figure out how to feel your way into it the first time. And then often once you know what it feels like, and by the way, I'm very kinesthetic, so I tend to think about it and talk about it in terms of feeling. For other people, it might be what it looks like or what it sounds like, and that's fine too. But they have a sort of internal calibration of what this experience is, or like at least what kind of universe it belongs in.
Yeah.
And once you've got that, going back there becomes much, much easier.
Well, I'm sure in your work at some point you probably talk about neural pathways, and just like the more you do trance, the easier it gets because that's how our brains go.
Right.
Sometimes your best bottom is the one that you've done it with over and over and over and over again because you've practiced together and know what to expect, right?
There was a time, mostly I play with my long-term play partners now. I'm kind of over newness, I don't know.
Well, you like depth.
Yeah, I like
and
depth.
depth is not something that comes quickly. It's something that's built over time.
Well, and I seem to play for keeps. So I have a couple different dominant partners that I've had for 3+ years. And with one of them in particular, you get to a point where you feel like, at least for me, sometimes I pick up on what he's thinking that he hasn't said out loud, which is real heckin' weird. Like at one point I was like, hey, like after the trance, I was like, hey, I had this weird compulsion to take my top off in the middle of it, but I didn't because you didn't tell me to. And he was like, that's real creepy because I was wondering if I wanted to tell you to take your top off or not.
Neat.
Isn't that wild? Like, it's just wild. And
do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's energy, rapport, connection, which is all things that are enhanced by doing hypnosis.
Absolutely.
And one thing that you mentioned that I want to make sure that you mentioned is you gave a really good example of utilization, which is the concept of like, you can use anything for anything. So when you were mentioning before, like, oh, you're going to hear sounds outside, but you can just let that go and focus. That's a very common technique for even when I was leading a bunch of group trances the other week, basically every time I began with a round of utilization of having them focus on like the crowd in the room, and then basically like letting them focus on whatever was grabbing their attention for a minute, and then using that to let it fade so that they could hear me more clearly, because it was a really crowded room.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know I had done that. I've led guided meditations for so long that it's just kind of natural to mention that over time now, which
Yeah.
is why when I started getting into hypnosis, like I told I know I told Hypnostory that I had resisted hypnosis for a long time when
A
I
lot of
first
people do.
discovered it like 20 years ago, and then just kind of forgot about it because I found other things. And then Dan had started studying hypnosis, and I'm like, "Oh, you do you. You go ahead and do that." And then
I
he's
remember
reading it.
that.
Yeah, and then he's reading it and he's like, "Dawn, you're already doing this stuff and have been doing it for, 2 decades. So
Oh my
why
God.
not get the training and more skills?" And yeah, I started reading it and I'm like, "Oh, this is a fit. Oh, I like this." So,
That's how I
yeah.
got into it, is that when I was in college, I was exploring guided meditation and spiritual trance work, and I and this was relatively early days of the public internet, and I was looking for resources there because I was starting to do that with everything, because it was always interesting to see what you found.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one of the things I found was that there were a bunch of people who seemed to be talking about the same stuff. And some of them called it guided meditation, and some of them called it hypnosis. And at least at that time, the ones who called it hypnosis seemed to understand it better and have more clear suggestions about how to do it in ways that are effective. And so I started studying this thing called hypnosis to basically be better at doing guided meditation, and then went down a really deep rabbit hole, and decades later found kink and was like, oh, hypnosis in kink? Oh, which interestingly enough was something I had been fantasizing about even back in the early days, but I had run across erotic stories of hypnosis where, someone would hypnotize someone and they would spontaneously orgasm on command. And I remember reading that and thinking,
If only,
oh
right?
God, that's hot, but there's no way that's real. You couldn't really do that. And then I found out
You're
that
so cute, Daddy.
you actually can. And it's something that a lot of people are able to do as hypnobottoms, often pretty easily.
Yeah. Well,
Although it varies.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. And then anyway, I was gonna
I'm
sidebar
watching
this
your
thing.
face. I'm watching your faces as I know you're picturing things in your head that are examples.
Oh, yes.
And I was gonna out you, but then was like, right, no, we should actually go back to the memory thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I could just do stories forever. The interesting thing to me, because a little bit earlier we were talking about like that people are afraid of having their memory altered or like messed with in some way. The thing that I think is fascinating is that people who want to fuck with this already have a hard enough time. Like that's what really baffles me, is that like I'm pretty sure that for the most part this isn't something you're going to accidentally stumble upon unless you have convinced yourself that you have no agency. Once that happens, there's a lot more that's on the table because you believe you're powerless. You've
Right.
essentially hypnotized yourself into that mindset.
And you've hypnotized yourself more powerfully than anyone else can ever hypnotize you, because hypnosis is happening in the brain of the person being hypnotized.
Right.
Right. Right.
And so, like, I'm not saying that, like, consent violations don't happen or that, like, it's the other person's fault. That's not how it goes. They're not correlated like that. Because hypnosis is very good at making you believe that you want something. That is what it's very good at. I just had an experiment with my girlfriend earlier today where we were playing together on a call. She's in the Netherlands and I'm here. And I wanted to play a resistance game to see where the line was between resistance and agency. And what I didn't expect, which I really should have, was her to immediately lean in with, but why would you want to resist?
Right.
I don't know why I didn't see it coming, but like the very first thing you do is convince the person that they want whatever you want, and then once you get there, you're golden.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
like,
why would you? But yeah, I'm like, why would you resist? This is like, I know I'm a strong person. I want someone to be stronger than me,
yes,
that can dominate me. So why would I resist unless it's someone who I don't respect their dominance to begin with?
Sure.
right.
Right?
I am primal prey. So I really like the act of like being able to actually fight and then get like put back in my place. That's something I super kink on. And I say very similar to what you said. That's why I was like, yes, is that I need to be emotionally, mentally bested. That like I need someone to prove they're more clever than I am. Mm-hmm. And like keep up with me. Which is why hypno bullshit has actually worked really well in that department, because it is a meeting of the minds. It's a like go toe to toe and see what happens. And
at the same time that it can be a tension like that, it's also a thing that you're building collaboratively as a top and bottom.
Yeah.
Because it's this really fun kind of connective way of exploring something together, even if the thing you're choosing to explore is resistance.
And like you can do any flavor you want. That's just my chosen flavor sometimes. But like honestly, a lot of the time I wanted to try it to remind myself I could, because I get like really easy and squishy and melty really fast, and I'm just like a little submissive puddle because it feels really good.
It feels good, yeah.
One of the things we often do in intro classes is that we'll work with somebody new in front of the class, and because when people see Panda and I work together, we've been doing this for 7 years, and
Daddy, it's our anniversary in like 3 weeks.
Yeah,
yay!
We've been doing this together for 7 years, and it does look like magic because we read each other's intent so well that it doesn't take much for Panda to know what I want, and Panda's my submissive, so if it understands what I want, it's going to just be there.
Right.
And so we'll often include in the structure of our classes, particularly when we're teaching in person. I have some concerns about risk profile in terms of doing this online where the person isn't in the room and I can't necessarily see them after the demo and make sure they're doing okay and so forth. But particularly when we teach in person, we will generally have a demo we do with a volunteer that we don't know. And often in an intro class, it's somebody who's never been hypnotized before. And generally what we do is bring them into hypnosis and then lock their arm in place, a thing called catalepsy, but it doesn't really matter. That it's just like feeling like your arm can't move. And then have them explore that they can resist that suggestion. They can push against the suggestion as hard as they want. And that arm is just stuck and it won't bend. But they can choose to take the suggestion away and immediately their arm bends.
Oh,
and
how interesting.
To have them experience viscerally the difference between pushing against it in a way that it's going to push back and choosing to opt out, use agency, and be able to take control again. And my favorite part of that demo is that then we'll say, if you can take it away like that, you could also put it back. Do you want to try and just freeze your arm again because you did it?
Right.
And their arm freezes again.
Yeah.
And usually they're really surprised that that works, because it seems like it's so easy, particularly because of the framing of hypnosis in media, but also to some extent how it looks, to think that hypnosis is effectively the hypnotist casting a spell on the bottom. And
right, which we talked about is just not.
And it's so much not that. It's this thing you're building together that's happening in the bottom's brain.
Yeah.
Because the bottom wants it. I mean, I'm sure the top likes control,
Right.
but the bottom wants it. But you know that thing about removing the suggestion yourself, how's that for thinking outside of the box? I haven't been taught that in any of my stuff, that's a possibility.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I mean, you can decide not to do it, right? You know, to not have it happen at all. People do that. But to have the catalepsy already in place and then to get it to remove, because you're like, oh, I can't force it. But in my head, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm opting out. I don't want that anymore. Boom, there, and it releases.
Yeah.
And we think that that's a really important thing to practice.
Yeah. Whether I teach with this one or not, it is something, because I teach with my girlfriend as well when I'm in the Netherlands, and sometimes with other partners.
We both do.
But I will always include that activity of taking it away and then putting it back again. Even with my more intermediate intensive, which was the last one Nath and I did overseas, we still threw that in the beginning, because I feel like the single most important thing you can do, and including memory play, but like with hypnosis in general, is be incredibly firm in your subject agency. And that's kind of for me, a foundational requirement before we really talk about moving steps further than that, because I think that informs the rest of how you engage with hypno-kink.
Love it. Love it.
And in two ways, because it's how you are keeping each other safe in the scene, because if something goes sideways, you can safe word or communicate it or cancel the problematic suggestion or whatever you need to do. And that keeps both partners safe in the scene, right? Even if I'm topping, I don't want to play with anybody who I don't trust will tell me to fuck off if that's what's appropriate,
hey,
right?
Daddy, fuck off.
I could have seen that coming. So, so there's that. But the other thing is having agency and really feeling that in your bones, to me, is one side of a coin. And the other side of a coin is, if you can choose to reject and cancel the suggestion, you can choose to accept it as deeply and fully as you want. Right. And that it can help people to feel like they can let go more into the experience and the scene, because they know that they've got this tool that they can always use if they find themselves in a situation that they don't want to be in.
Yeah. Okay, what I'm about to say is incredibly in the deep end and mostly for you, because I think you'll think it's cool. Okay. So me and my girlfriend have like a vampire thrall, like kind of like lore of relationship. And we play with it, very intentional obsession. And kind of like maybe addiction a little bit, although we don't really frame it that way. The funny thing is, it started in the beginning because I was afraid that I was too much, like pretty much all the time, because I'm just a very intense person. It's just what I do. I just go from 0 to 100.
And you've had a number of shitty partners in the past who told you that you were too much, and that somehow that was your problem, and that you should know better, and all of this shamey stuff.
Yeah. So she very much wanted me to be reassured that I wasn't. And so we came up with this, no, I made you obsessed with me because that's what I wanted. Framed it as like, no, I did this. It's not on you, it's on me. So that I could feel free to be exactly what I am and like kind of jump over part of that hurdle of shame about it.
Nice.
So over time, we lean on this, like we're doing some conditioning, like there's conditioning happening just because of length of relationship at this point, and like some long distance games, because I only get to see her like 5 weeks out of the year, maybe. And it's interesting to me because I will sometimes kind of lean into the lore or like be so in the lore that I forget like how it started, or like I'm not really actively thinking about it. And then it's really useful because when I feel like something is wrong with the relationship, which doesn't happen very often, but when it
does happen in almost any relationship at some point, it's
Right.
going to feel like something is wrong and that you need tools to work on that.
Right. I will pretty much just kind of automatically stop the obsessive feelings. We made a metaphor around it, but like essentially I use the metaphor to stop the obsession until I can have a conversation with her about whatever it is. We repair the thing or clarify the thing, whatever it is, and then I can just put the obsession back again.
Nice.
That is like the realest, most long-term version of that I can think of, where it's really leaning into the trust and foundation, knowing that in the background your agency is always active and live, and then being able to let go into whatever the experience is because you're so sure that you've got yourself.
And
Nice.
this is why I'm comfortable as a Dom playing as hard with Panda as we do. That, that's what I need in order to feel good about that. And I do want to say, because sometimes people hear this kind of talk and basically say, okay, so that means it's not possible to do something non-consensual in hypnosis because the person could just choose to reject the suggestion. And we like to be really emphatic that that's 100% bullshit, and that there can be lots of reasons that people don't, even though they might have been able to.
Yeah.
And that
No, I said that, Daddy.
I wanted to hit it harder because I think it's really important that
Harder, Daddy.
that anytime someone even gives a suggestion that's outside of the negotiated boundaries, that to us is a consent violation. Whether the
Absolutely.
person responds to that suggestion or not.
Because it's still
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That's just like if someone said, I don't want this done during my scene, it's a hard no, and it's just suggested to them as, well, I'm going to do this thing to you, even though I know you don't want it. I mean, they didn't do the thing, but
Yeah.
they mentioned the thing and threatened with the thing. To me, that's still non-consensual.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that one to me could depend on what else has been negotiated.
Unless I'm doing fear play. I think
Because-
fear play is the one thing.
Yeah, sometimes people do like to negotiate the ability for the Dom to threaten things that aren't actually on the table,
I do like that.
because they like to play with that edginess. And hey, if that's what you have negotiated, go for it. That's awesome.
That's the trick, though, right? It has
Right.
to be negotiated.
And the thing that I am consistently confused by is
The one thing, there's so many.
that's true. But a thing I am consistently confused by is why so many, particularly cis men who are or want to be dominant, try to get around people's limits and rules lawyer negotiations and stuff, when all they have to do is be a really honest, caring person who makes sure that they stay within what's negotiated and care about the person that they're playing with as a human being. Yeah. And the number of people who are going to be at their feet saying, please take all my power, it's just like, you can have everything you want. You just have to
Not be shitty.
honest about it and be a good person.
Narcissist.
It just drives me. I just don't. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it.
I know. And the longer you're in, the more, well, you can see
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
we are going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. So I was going to say this is supposed to be memory play, but I could easily rename it Agency in Hypnosis because
Cool.
we made sure to cover that quite a bit. It's still going to be memory play, but we
Yeah.
could do that as well. So we decided to talk about this because you guys have a class coming up. So
Yeah, we
tell us
do.
a little bit about that.
So the class is on February 15th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time online. And it's called Remembering to Forget, Exploring Memory Play. And we do pretty regularly teach online, as I know you do also, Dawn. And the way it works is anyone who buys a ticket for the class before the class is over will get the recording. So if you can come and be there live and interact in the chat and so forth, that's great.
That's
and
definitely
we
more fun.
Love it.
We love.
Yes.
We love engaging with the chat. We love seeing people's faces. We do use an audience polling system that is only for the people who are live in the room at the time.
Well, because that's how linear time works.
Well,
once we've
yes.
made the recording. But if you can't be there live, you can just you will also get the recording a few days later and can watch it at your leisure.
And we're both very neurospicy, so each class does meander a little bit off topic, but we definitely still cover everything in depth because we give ourselves ample time to do so.
Yeah.
Definitely have like our little ethics soapboxes because I will never probably not be able to do them.
I hear you. I have the same problem. So if you're trying to find, obviously there's going to be people listening to this and they may be more interested in hypnosis. So I know there's platforms where it can be a little difficult to find hypnosis groups, but we were talking earlier and you said Discord is a little easier for this.
It's where a lot of the Hypno-Kink community gathers and talks. And so our server is called Consolation, which is a whole story about why it got named that I won't tell right now. But it's a really wonderful community of largely queer folks.
Largely nerdy.
And very nerdy.
Yeah.
And you know, folks who are cis and straight are completely welcome too. And that it's kink and hypno education. And if you join our server, you can find in the resources there links to a bunch of others. And that's something we invite people to share. It's just rather than try to give a whole list, it's sort of easier to have one place to start.
Right.
And also, if people want to get started, we have a video, Hypno-Kink 101, that is available on our website, pandastory.love, and that you can buy that, and we'll take you through everything that we want you to know before you start playing with this with someone.
Right. And there's also a pretty active community still on Tumblr.
Tumblr?
Yeah, I know. Tumblr has been a thing for a long time, though. Mostly a lot of writings, which I love, and there are a bunch of smart people out there who are doing incredible articles. And you can find the groups on FetLife. It's just you have to get creative because it's shadow banned because thanks credit card companies. And if you just look up Hypnos, like just don't finish the word and you can find things. Or my girlfriend actually made the tag spiral an allowable tag on FetLife.
Nice.
And so some of us have started using spiral as well.
So that you can just look for that tag.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me tonight, Hypnostory and Panda.
Thank you.
And I will make sure to direct people to your Discord.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend your classes. So
Oh, thank you.
yes, I will absolutely get that out there. So thanks for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Yay.
Now, if you'd like to have conversation like that with me or any conversation, or we can sit silently over a cup of coffee, that's fine as well. You can find me in a few different places. Like I said, I'm currently at the Indie Rope Expo in Indianapolis. Next is Intrigue in Indianapolis. That's February 27th through March 1st. I'll be presenting and vending. Then the New Mexico Kink and Leather Fair in Albuquerque, April 11th. I'll be presenting and vending. Primal Arts in Baltimore, May 7 through 11. I'm presenting. South Dakota in July. We're still trying to figure out what I'm doing. Minnesota for Seek, a submissive retreat in October. Again, trying to figure out what I'm doing. I know I'm going. Chicago Elgin Munchers. It is their Kink Expo. That is in October, and I know I'm at least vending. Satyricon in Madison in November. I am at least presenting. And I just added in Albuquerque, 2 Phoenixes, Southern Ohio, another Baltimore. I think I have a North Carolina coming up, and just places and people. So more info to come as the details get ironed out. So keep up with all the places I'm presenting or vending, my online classes and intensives and retreats, new book news, discounts, and more via the Erotic Awakening newsletter. And get your EA shout out like Tiger Boy in New Mexico. Head over to eroticawakening.com and subscribe today. All right, a little bit more BDSM terminology. So I did a couple last week. I'll do a couple more this week until I run out or get bored. So aftercare is what we're starting with. This is the time after a BDSM scene or play session in which the participants calm down and ground. I teach a class on this one. There's a lot of things that you can do. What I like to point out, though, is that aftercare is not guaranteed. Don't assume you're going to get it. Negotiate for it. Not everybody does aftercare or wants aftercare. So negotiation. If you're negotiating for aftercare, you should know what negotiation is. This is the process of discussing, agreeing upon, and establishing boundaries, desires, and safety protocols with a partner before engaging in scene play. And I use partner loosely. So you're discussing all that stuff with whoever it is you're going to be playing with. And I usually recommend doing that as a peer. You need to speak up for yourself. Okay, collaring. Collaring is a formal acceptance by a dominant of a subservice or of a sub of a dominant's domination, or both. A lot of times it's both. And many people have ceremonies, so where they do this. And it's like a commitment ceremony. Some people consider it even more powerful than a wedding or along the lines of a wedding. Some people have contracts, some don't, but a collaring. Now, the other one you may not have heard of before, and that's free use. So that's an arrangement within a dynamic where the dominant can initiate sexual activity with a submissive at any time. And this is because they discussed it beforehand. There's already consent for this style of relationship. I know a few people that have this style of relationship, and it's hot, hot, hot. All right, let's wrap this up. I know that interview was very long, so I'm trying to make the rest of this really quick. Currently, I can be found at Dawn_Awakening or Erotic_Awakening on FetLife, Erotic Awakening on Instagram, EA Podcast Dawn on TikTok, or just email me at dawn@eroticawakening.com. Be a part of the Erotic Awakening podcast community. You can become a patron of the show and get early access to the podcast, a free copy of the audiobook Polyamory Toolkit, free ebooks, discount on monthly Zoom classes, member-only Discord access, and more. Find all the goodies at patreon.com/Erotic Awakening today. And help others find the podcast. Give us high ratings wherever you listen to the podcast. And most importantly, tell your friends about the show. Join the conversations with other listeners. Use the links from the Erotic Awakening website for our interactive Discord channel, which is open to anyone. There's extra channels for patrons, but the actual Discord channel is open to anyone. Until next time, may your journey be filled with passion, joy, and a bit of naughtiness. Bye, everyone.